All right. The next thing we're going to do is look into our drive. So I've navigated possibly from my email to get to my drive. Let's look. And I've just selected my drive to open up my drive. Now, unfortunately, this is a test one. So not all of our drives look this clean. For example, in mine, I have many, many, many loose files that are not organized correctly. So hopefully, there are some of you that have your drive always organized and you start that fresh. However, let's think about if our drives are a little bit of a mess, how can we set ourselves up for success for next year? I'm going to show you some things so that we can get organized at the end of this year so that we start with a fresh and clean drive for next year. Okay, so it's kind of like cleaning out that junk closet and putting it in a shipping container and putting it somewhere else outside of our house. So, getting into my drive. We talked about Google Classroom makes a classroom folder in your My Drive. What I like to do is create a new folder in that Google Classroom main folder, and I'll say folder here, and I might say archive, grade 11, 9, 10. I'm going to say 4 here because I have some fourth grade examples. And then what I would do is just start dragging my classroom folders. Remember, all the work you did in Google Classroom that's connected to an assignment is in that folder, and I would just drag it and drop it into the archive grade 4. I would do that for all of my considered loose classrooms that are kind of like out there and looking like they're active and move them to that. Soon you'll have archive grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through 11th grade. So you can actually see and find your work from old classes easily. All right. So that's one of the approaches you could take. You probably also have many documents that are not in your classroom folder. That happens when you do an assignment and you start a new document outside of Google Classroom. It happens all the time. So you probably have a lot of these just random documents. You could also do that same system of creating a new folder and labeling that archive. Let's say this is for grade 9. And then taking the time to move over the documents within there. Now, you could, inside that grade 9, label it math, language arts, depending on how much you have, and create subfolders and then organize them that way. So let's say that I'm going to do that. I'll just do a quick example for math. So now you're building more of a file structure that you can keep even more organized. Or if you're thinking that if it comes to a time that you want to go back to that work, you could just select everything by holding the first document and then hold shift and select the last document and just move everything into archived grade 9. Then you don't have to create those subfolders. So depending on the level of organization you feel comfortable with, you can make that decision. Here is a tip for moving files into folders or subfolders. On the side here, I will open up the path for my drive and I can see that my main folders are here. And I could even open up this subpath. So maybe you want to have everything within Classroom because it's like classwork. Don't rename this folder, the Classroom folder, just because it can cause some glitches when Classroom tries to create your new paths. Just leave as is. But if you wanted to, you could just take these documents that are loose and drop them into the Classroom folder. That is one way you could do that. Or if you were doing the other approach where you created a archive folder for your certain grade level, and then you wanted to also do subfolders, open those up and then move them over in that way. So I like to have, it's kind of like splitting your screen, the path for different folders on the left. And then I move my items over either by bulk, which is fine, and start fresh next year, or organizing down so that you can go back to your math grade 9 or your language arts grade 8, however you want to do that. The main point is that you want to have your My Drive cleaned up and fresh, ready to go, no unorganized files for the beginning of next year. All right, you can now pause the video if you want to and actually go in and clean your My Drive.